When it comes to investing, I've always found that when I lead with technology and I allow technology that I can geek out on and get passionate about, that has always become the best investments I ever had. For example, the first investment I ever made when I was younger, I was about 16 years old, was in Apple. And this was before the iPhone, this was before the iPods blew up. And why did I get into it? Well, because I started hearing rumblings about what was going on with Apple, what they were doing, rumors about what became the iPhone, rumors about what became the iPod. And I started to become infatuated with the idea of MP3 players. And that led me to Apple. And that was an absolutely amazing investment. You can look at what it's doing today. I also invested in Amazon very early on. Amazon was yet another major growth. Why was I obsessed with Amazon? Well, with what they were doing with online e-commerce, what they did with delivery, and more importantly, what they did with AWS became one of the pivotal reasons why I invested in Amazon. Another example, Nvidia. I knew that there was a movement happening when it came to deep thinking and machine learning and large language models, neural nets, right? At the time, I was trying to figure out what to invest in to capture this market because we didn't know who the winners were going to be. And that's where I stumbled upon NVIDIA and what they were doing with processing. That yet again became an amazing investment. And all of these investments were led through my passion for technology. As you all know, my background's in engineering. And so I like to let the engineering, the technology to be what leads me forward with my investments. If you're new to the channel, my name's Nicholas, and this is Investing Against the Grain. Feel free to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. So, what does this have to do with Tesla? What's this have to do with FSD? Everything. This has everything to do with it. All right. When it comes to Tesla, why I initially got into Tesla was because one, I was already infatuated with Elon Musk. I mean, who wasn't, right? If you're an engineer, if you're a technical mind, it's really hard not to marvel what this guy has done. It's almost impossible. And this other guy over here, Nikola Tesla, was always someone I was so passionate about growing up. I used to do projects in school based off things that he had done, right? I built like little Tesla coils and stuff. So this has always been something I've been interested in, just anything tech or engineering related. And so with Tesla, when they came along, yeah, the electric vehicle was an interesting concept, but what really hooked me was this idea of autonomy. This idea of autonomy just took over my mind and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And once Tesla ditched Mobileye and decided to go do things on their own, that is when I really got heavy into investing in the Tesla and understanding Tesla. So that leads us to today, where we are now. Now, let me start off by addressing the naysayers, the haters, the people who think that they're being pragmatic, or the people who don't think they're being pessimist, but just a realist, a rationalist, a whatever other euphemism you want for somebody who's just a naysayer. The common critique for Tesla is one, either they aren't using lidar, they got rid of radars, they don't have any sonar anymore, they don't have enough equipment. That's a common one. Those are very easily displaced and logically nuanced rationed out of the conversation or the issues, right? For example, when it comes to lidar, when it comes to sonar or radar, they all become noise for the approach Tesla's taking. With Tesla's approach using cameras, they are able to augment a lot of the benefits that you would get from radar or lidar. That doesn't mean they don't use them for testing, but at the end of the day, they can leverage their models, their neural nets, and the photons coming from the cameras to replace the need for these. For example, simple example, why were they able to get rid of radar? Well, first, they used radar to train and confirm a subset of neural nets to be able to do what we see radar do as far as measuring distances. And over time, they were able to just get rid of it. But they did use radar initially, and they did use radar to train the neural nets so that then they could just remove that piece, right? And this is the same thing that Tesla always does, right? The best part is no part. And they're able to leverage software to get rid of things. Okay. So when it comes to the hardware part, that's a very shallow argument for why Tesla can't do what they're going to do with autonomy. It's shallow because what's the real part that's lacking in that argument is that the problem with autonomy is not being able to take in the world. Okay, LiDAR, radar, sonar, cameras. These are all different means of taking in the world so that the software can then try to understand what's going on. All right. LiDAR is just essentially light beams reflecting back and forth, and fog and rain can easily disrupt this. And it's also not as dense as we would have with cameras at a pixel level. So visualizing the world isn't the issue. And so once you get past that understanding, and that the issue or the real hard part is the brain, the neural nets, all right, making decisions in a split second, even less, right? In nanoseconds and milliseconds. That is what matters, and that's the obstacle. And so with Tesla, the common argument with naysayers tend to be about the hardware. Okay. So I feel like we've just addressed that. And I'm not going to go any deeper. I have other videos that can tie into that. The other argument becomes, okay, sure, Tesla's doing this, but they don't really have any differentiated abilities, right? There's nothing that's going to set them apart. Once they got it, Waymo and Cruise, everybody else will be right behind them. Well, again, you can make those arguments. You can even sit there and say, well, Waymo and Cruise are doing this now. They're doing ride hailing in Phoenix and in parts of San Fran. What's Tesla doing? Tesla's not doing that. That's a valid argument to an extent, right? And it's very easily picked apart because what they're doing is they're essentially mapping regions and with high definition maps, which are very difficult to keep accurate. And it's a very high compute cost, very expensive. There's latency in it. They can easily change. And what you're actually doing is you have a couple set of crutches for your inability to solve actual generative, I guess, artificial intelligence when it comes to this, this scope, which is autonomy. All right. And so they're using these crutches because they can't figure out how to get to where Tesla is. Meanwhile, what Tesla's doing is they're not having the vehicles rely on pre-mapped roads that we already know what's going on. Essentially, it's just a train going on train tracks. No, very mistaken. What Tesla's doing is they are training, teaching, and building a software where the car in real time, no matter where I put this vehicle, knows what to do, know what's going on. I don't need anything pre-mapped. The vehicle could have never ever been in this place, in this state, in this city, in this country. There could be no road lines. There could be no road, right? That's what they're building. Real autonomy. The last common argument, I guess, that I hear from a lot of people is, well, Elon always says this, and he says we'll get there. He says next year and next year and next year. And then people like to use that against him. But my way of thinking about this is using everyday life. Okay. Let me give you an example. I'll give you 3 examples if I can remember all 3. First, let's use the weather. How often do we have weathermen and women get the weather wrong for tomorrow, for next week, where a hurricane's going to go? All the damn time. Okay. Let me give another example. How often do salespeople on sales team, where they forecast a deal to close, they're wrong about it. Either it closes early, it closes late, the deal never happens all the time. Last one for you. How often are doctors wrong about when a baby will be due? Happens all the time. Again, babies are early, babies are late. Happens all the time. What's the difference though here, Nick? What point are you making? Well, my point is that we have weather every day. We've had weather every day in the past, yet we still can't seem to predict it that well. Okay. What about salespeople? Well, presumably, if they're any good at what they do, they have closed a lot of deals. They forecast a lot of deals, yet somehow they can still miss the target. And doctors, there's been a couple of humans born, at least that's my observation. And yet, even though all these humans have been born, these doctors have all of these births under their belt, they still can't pick the correct time frame. Now, don't get me wrong, they're not that far off, right? Doctors might be off by a week or 2, maybe a couple of days. The weather can be pretty damn bad. And salespeople, well, they're salespeople. My point is, in saying all this, is that the difference is with Elon, when people ask him, when do you think we'll get there? When do you think autonomy will be there? The truth is, he has nothing to gauge this off of. He doesn't have a million humans that have been born before that he can measure how long it normally takes. Autonomy has never been done. So every time he answers this question, it's literally an educated guess based off what he knows, what he sees, the data he has. And so, with that said, I feel like if you really at that point are going to hold someone to their prediction of when something's going to happen, something that has never been done before, that we have no measuring stick for, that will be the greatest software problem to have ever been solved, and you are just going to hold on to that, that's going to be your straw man argument is that, well, Elon said next year. Oh, Elon said next year. I feel like you're coming to this conversation without nuance, without objectivity, and frankly, without wanting to make another good investment the way I have in the past. Now, none of this is financial advice, but I want to share with you what I see happening, what I think is going to happen. Now, first things first, I live in Florida. Living in Florida, we don't have crappy weather like the Northeast. We don't have issues with funding our streets like many other states have. And frankly, we just have a lot of crazy drivers, but our roads are damn good and marked really well. So I have a geographical bias. I get that, fully aware of that. But I follow this space really closely and I watch a lot of YouTubers. I'm friends with a lot of YouTubers who are all across the country from Chicago to Austin to San Fran to LA to Boston to New York to Charleston to Rhode Island, all over the world, to Minnesota. I mean, just literally everywhere. And they are having the same experiences I'm having. Now, we're not all the exact same. We all have different densities, different rules in the streets, but the general feeling, the general impression is that we are getting very close to solving autonomy. Now, the reason I'm making this video today is because I am very, very bullish about this next release that Tesla is about to unveil 11.4.1. Now, we as the public may get dot two, so we'll see what happens there. But I wanted to go through a few tweets and just kind of take you along this journey and show you some of the thinking I do whenever I invest. Now, to be fair, my investment always leads with technology. That's what always leads. Before I even look at balance sheets or anything, that's what drives the narrative for me. Is this disruptive? Is this going to the next place? Is this the way to capture the next big market in a meaningful way? Right? Amazon captured with AWS, absolutely, and internet commerce, right? Apple with the smartphone and iPods, right? Nvidia with anything still to this day, whether it's neural nets, deep think, anything like that, right? Nvidia was in the forefront. And so the next revolution that I see is AI, ML, and TaaS, transportation as a service. And it is, of my opinion, Tesla is the way to play this market, is the way to play this next movement. So, with that said, I want to start sharing my screen. So, we're going to go through a few tweets and I'm just going to talk about, what I think about them. So, let's start off here. So, Holmar's catalog, or Omar, he writes, Cruise has an accident every 43,478 miles in driverless operations. FSD Beta has an accident every 3.2 million miles in human supervised operations. My point in showing this is to once again point out that Cruise and Waymo are different approaches than what Tesla's doing. I'm not saying that they're wrong. Nobody can be wrong yet because we haven't gotten there yet, but this is telling, right? And this isn't cherry picking data, right? Keep in mind, FSD Beta is predominantly city street driving, so you can't say it's highway. And for Cruise, these are their numbers, okay? And they're in a very, very small sample size as far as geo, right? They're essentially, from my understanding, just in San Fran. They might be in Phoenix, and I don't know if they've started in Austin yet. But the point is, this versus Tesla being everywhere in North America except Mexico, right? So I would say the benefit is to Cruise, and still we see such drastic differences in number. Here we also see Elon Musk saying 11.4.1 is promising. And watch how you can see Elon getting really excited as we go through this. Okay, and this was April 30th. So here we have another one. Okay, we have Omar yet again on FSD. Looks like he has a friend there. Wonder if that's a girlfriend. Anyways, I should probably clip that out. He writes, Tesla Vision AI is designed to be advanced enough to control the car completely on its own. It runs even when you're driving manually, protecting you and other road users at all time. Remember, with Tesla, safety is first, no matter what. That's the mission. So let's scroll down here. Once again, Elon says version 11.4 is excellent. Several days of driving to random pinpoint locations in Austin, zero safety critical interventions. That's awesome, right? And again, remember, he always drives the latest build version. So then here on May 6th, we have Omar again saying all zero takeover drives on Tesla full self-driving beta 11.3.6 today. Wow, made videos. And this is the version that we currently have now, right? And so here Elon says, in that case, you'll love 11.4.1. Again, you can tell Elon's pretty excited about this. So here Omar puts up a poll. When will Tesla full self-driving 11.4 start shipping to customers? Most people, ironically or jokingly, in jest, write 2 weeks. If you don't know the joke, well, you don't know. You haven't been following this long enough. But here's what Elon says. 11.4 ships to Tesla employees tomorrow, then progressively wider as confidence grows. We test as much as possible in simulation and with QA drivers, quality assurance drivers. But reality is vastly more complex. This is true. Valid point. This was May 7th. Okay, so this means on May 8th, it started shipping out. Let's move on. Here, again on May 7th, Elon writes, arguably, 11.4 should be version 12, as there are so many major improvements. V12 is reserved for when FSD is end-to-end AI from images into steering, brakes, and acceleration out. So in other words, removing heuristics. And so at least this is my understanding. So I could be wrong, but my understanding is so heuristics, if you're not in the development world, CI/CD type things, or just coding in general, heuristics are code that humans write. Okay, so C++, Java, Go, Node, etc. What Elon's sitting here saying is essentially where the neural nets are doing all the work from beginning to end, from photons of cameras coming in, right, or photons coming in to the cameras, going feeding that information into the neural nets. The neural nets then making a decision of what to do out in the real world, which translates into mechanical motions in the steering wheel and the pedals and the brakes. Okay, right now there's a lot of heuristics built into this, right? And the heuristics you can almost think of as guardrails that neural nets or the AI are slowly eating up, and that's happening faster and faster. And so that's what he's saying here. And what's more telling is that he's saying that version 12 is reserved for when that happens. But 11.4 should arguably be called version 12. So I thought that was very interesting. He's clearly excited about this. So then Tesla Synopsis writes with a nice video here of FSD. As people experience FSD, they say, wow, Elon Musk and Tesla, can we get FSD subscription in Canada? Now, I 100% agree that people definitely say wow when they finally see it. People, Tesla is nothing but a story of wow. That's what Tesla is. When you first see a Tesla, you think, wow, for better or worse, right? Especially with the Cybertruck. But then once you get into a Tesla and you feel it, you experience it, you say, wow. Then when you start to interact with the software, you say, wow, yet again. Then once you discover full self-driving, autonomy, what it's like, regen braking, all that, once again, you say, wow. And the latest wow that I don't think many people have really had a chance to experience, but you will starting probably at the end of Q3 is the Cybertruck. I know people see it, they have ideas about it. I cannot stress this enough. With the Cybertruck, it is the only thing in the world that I can even really explain that once you see it in person, it hits you how awesome it is. And you say, wow. Anyways, let me get off my wow trip here. So Elon says, once FSD is super smooth, not just safe, we will roll out a free month trial for all cars in North America, then extend to rest of the world after we ensure it works well on local roads and regulators approve it in that country. All right. So this, again, if you ask me, this just shows you how bullish Elon is. He's now talking about when they will roll it out, how they essentially will advertise this by giving a 1 month free subscription to everybody in North America. Now, imagine this is just the United States and Canada. I don't know if it'll encompass Mexico, but we'll see. But this is a brilliant move because this is no different than the Netflix approach, right? Where essentially you go, you experience it. It's a try and buy, right? That's what it is. It's a try and buy. And once you try, you buy it, right? Or it's more inconvenient to get rid of this in your life than it is to just keep it. All right. Now, this may conflict with current economic times. We will see. But this is a brilliant approach. This will allow everybody to use it. It'll be the best advertisement possible for Tesla in general. Just think about it. Even if you aren't interested in having the subscription every month, guarantee you next time someone takes a trip, they say, you know what, let's just pay the $200 for it instead of buying that plane ticket. That way we have our car, it's more convenient, etc. I also guarantee you they'll be bringing their friends on to try it out. Hey, I got this for free from Tesla. Try it out. Guess what happens from there? Butts in seats equal receipts. So people, that rhymed. I tried to rhyme on the point or in the moment because this is all live. There's no writing here that I'm reading from, scripting. So I was really happy with that. And I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back for that one. Anyways, this is exciting. You can tell how bullish Elon is. All right. We're almost through here. Pierre Farragher writes here, Gap driverless. FSD still huge, but in a supervised mode. The current version is 85% ready for mass adoption. It will have an interesting impact on Tesla margins. 5% penetration for full service and 20% for an enhanced autopilot version yields 5 points of gross margin. Now, if I scroll down here, Sawyer Merritt, everyone knows who he is, says FSD beta is something you really have to experience in person to believe how incredible it is. That was a long sentence. Most don't even want to try it for $199 a month. A free trial could convince some people that maybe thought they didn't want to buy or subscribe. And then this is where Elon talks about what will happen. But Elon also acknowledges the awareness of the capability of FSD is still shockingly low, even among Tesla owners. Now, remember this because this is what I'm going to wrap up with. But before we wrap up, I want to emphasize what Elon says here. This was his latest tweet, I believe, regarding FSD and the version coming out. He says, we always prioritize safety over smoothness. After we achieve a higher tier of safety, then we polish the experience. Very important to both safe and smooth. Very important to be both safe and smooth for new users to be comfortable with FSD. Again, safety is what is prioritized. Now, let me come back here again. I want to read this one more time. The awareness of the capability of FSD is still shockingly low, even among Tesla owners. This is the opportunity, in my opinion. Look, we're at a point where, and again, none of this financial advice, but we're at a point where we still haven't seen FSD or autonomy come to fruition. Hasn't happened yet. But you're at a point where you can see who the main players are. You can go see Waymo. You can go check out Mobileye. You can check out Cruise. You can check out Tesla FSD. And you can make your own decision on which one you think is going to win. All right. This is essentially like if you're betting and you already know what the choices are, but you're investing instead on what will be the biggest industry that exists to date. All right. And you have a front row seat to go ahead and invest in this movement, knowing who the main players are. I'm telling you right now, there's no one that's going to come out of left field. It's too hard. You need too much data, too much time, too much compute, too many engineers that you need, too much resources. And guess what? All the engineers are essentially spoken for at this point. The data is almost impossible to catch up to. I think Tesla is impossible to catch up to. The investment to get into it is essentially not going to happen because you're just going to lose money. Whereas you have companies like Tesla that are making money despite the fact that they haven't achieved, full autonomy. And the compute resources that you need for this are insanely expensive. And then not only that, but then you have to figure out how to make it work. And then you have to figure out how to get the software into the cars and what type of hardware and how do you build the fleet, right? Who the players are. we're not going to get new entrances, in my opinion. So, with that said, we're at a point where people still don't understand what's going on. People still don't understand what's going on. This reminds me of like 2018, 2019, when it was just like ripping your hair out. Like, why don't people see what's going on with electric vehicles? People are just now starting to get it. And here we are before we get to full autonomy, transportation as a service, and we all have a front row seat to not only be a part of it, but to invest in it. And to me, if you go make your own opinion, experience all that's out there, and then you tell me who you think is going to solve this problem. And in my opinion, it will be a winner takes all, or at the very least, takes most. If you enjoy this type of content, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell. I love you all. Thanks for watching. Peace.